Listen, I'm going to need help with this one because the last A in this one, is it 1A or 2A's? I'm seeing it both ways everywhere. What is the right way to spell this one? Chase Lee Hockey here with the Blue Futon reviewing Madharasi? If I'm saying it right, because I know the 2A's and 1A might make it sound different. Anyway, what's about pretty simple premise? We have a guy who really loves a girl, and you know what? He is about to commit suicide because the girl is breaking up with him. He has no reason to live, and a cop needs kind of a person that's willing to commit suicide to do a mission. But something happens in the story to make a lot of twists, turns, and shenanigans ensues. So, did I like this film? I did. This was a bloody good time. It was fun, has some good humor to it. Yes, some plot holes galore. Yes, some characters that were literally like Terminators in this movie with their movements and gunplay and things like that. But the overall just story of this is very interesting, as well as it's a movie you've seen before. Yes, you've seen some of these action set pieces before, but it's done differently to an extent with how the camera moves as well as the story. And I think that's where it really pushes this forward, because this could have been a normal like guy going after the girl and there's bad guys and a gun trade and things like that, and they're just normal. He's just a badass dude. Yes, he's a badass dude. However, there is something mentally wrong with him because of some past things. That's all I'm going to say. Of course, everyone has a past, but this one kind of takes it tenfold where you're like, okay, that's a good storytelling plot that I could really dig deep into. People might be like, oh, you're spoiling the movie, you're spoiling the movie. I don't think so, because it is pretty, it's part of the story, but it's not really, giving away plot points in this movie. So this is a pretty, kind of say simple plot of cops versus gun smugglers through and throughout. And this does, I feel like, maybe lead to a sequel. Maybe, maybe not, because with this gun smuggling, there seems like there's another background character that is in the movie a very little bit amount of time. And I do feel like it wasn't as fleshed out on that level. But when thinking about the positives of this movie, I do like the story a lot, how it was something different, but something I've seen before. And once you watch this movie, I think you could feel what I'm talking about. I truly, truly think you'll be like, I know what that Chase man thinks. He's pretty smart. I'm not that smart. I could promise you that. All right. Then when doing with the acting, I think the acting's pretty good overall. The choreography of the action is pretty good. This is some of the better ones I've seen this year. And it opens up with a checkpoint scene, which when a big semi-trailer comes, I'm like, oh, please, 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 please. And they show a lot of cars crash. And I said, hell yeah, that's some real car crashing. I really like this one. And there's also a big explosion scene at a police station where I'm like, oh, that's actually a real fire. They're actually doing some good explosions, not relying too much on CGI. And I think that's a very positive, trait with this movie is, yes, there might be some CGI, especially with the very end and stuff going in the water, sure. But the overall aspect of the movie is like it tried to be, let's try to do as much as camera as possible. And I really give that positives. Nerfing though. You might be wondering, what are you talking about, Chase? Sure. The very beginning in some of the cops versus robbers, that's what I'm gonna call it. It feels like the robbers were so like way better than the cops, and the cops are just getting mowed down. It's like, well, we need to nerf these bad guys because there's no way they're that good. But also, there's these two bad guys that are absolutely Terminators. The first battle sequence in this checkpoint scene, you're just like, what? Are they machines? This is not human. And you could be like, okay, they're playing it for fun about having these crazy acrobatics, sure. But at a point, there's this one spinning scene where I'm like, what is this? Like, it is fun, but it did kind of get me scared. I won't lie, because that battle sequence, I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit too much, if you know what I'm talking about, where you kind of want like a somewhat grounded-esque movie. And this movie does have some grounded-esque moments with some of the battles and gunfights and knife fights. But that first one, it was fun, But I was like, oh, what's the next the movie's going to go to? But then it goes to the car crashes, and I'm like, yes, yes, give me more of that. And then, of course, with Indian movies, you're going to get some song and dance sequences. The dance sequence is the really only dance sequence, and that's the one that was in the trailer. Even though the trailer I watched with this one was very minimal, it really didn't get any of the plot points of the movie, so it's pretty good. But I do think there's a little bit too many song elements in this movie that was, I wouldn't say hindering the pace, but it was like you could have shortened the movie 15, 20 minutes and made it a little more brisk movie. Because it is almost a 3-hour movie. It's like 2 hours and 51 minutes. Now, I won't say I was feeling the runtime, but there were some elements where I'm like, okay, let's get rid of that like 3-minute song type piece. It really didn't need to be in this film. When looking at this movie in two halves, the last half is a lot more violence and a lot more action compared to the first half, because the first half is a little bit more of a love story-esque, but it's not really a foreground love story. It's not also a love story that you've seen a million times before. Yeah, sure, it's a love story, but it's not really handsy or hammy, if you want to put it that way. The third act, again, it felt like Terminators, and you do understand the backstory of some of these characters. However, you also kind of feel like, are these people just too powerful, taking too many punches? Yes, I know it's a movie, sure. And there were some elements where, like, yeah, you probably need to be a little bit closer to your foe and punch them, because you could tell you're a good 6-8 inches apart and there wasn't no contact. But hey, you're going to get that in some movies like this throughout. It is what it is. But gunplay was pretty solid in this movie. It was sporadic. The movie was just chaotic. It was fun, bloody, interesting, unique. And it has some also story elements I think needs to be talked about more. You could say gun culture, but hey, I like my guns. I have good guns. They're very good. I'm pretty sure my guns are going to be safe. They don't walk around shooting people. So I think my guns, they won't do any of that. And also just the whole, if people have guns in their hands, would they, cause acts of violence? I don't really think so. Just random acts of violence. I mean, you could say there's that movie with Michael Douglas called Falling Down, where there's a boiling point, and you can understand that. But I think the best message in this movie has to do with phones and helping people. Because there's a suicide scene in this movie, and what people do, they kind of look up their cell phones, like, do it, jump, you could jump, I know you could jump, and you're just like, that's kind of dirty. And of course, one girl's like, don't jump yet, like, comment, subscribe, and you're like, okay, that's kind of like messed up, but funny at the same time. Also, there's a scene where someone's getting acid poured on them, and again, people are just watching, and that's kind of a plot point of, are you willing to help? Are you willing to be normal? Because this doctor in this movie is basically like, there's 30 people, right, taking out their phones. In society, that would be considered normal. Abnormal is helping them. Like that Daniel Perry guy, if I'm not mistaken, from New York, that chokehold, the guy that threatened to kill people. That's abnormal, because most people are sitting in the corner of the subway like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die in New York. I really don't want to die. And so you have like the normal versus abnormal. I think bringing that to the forefront is actually pretty smart and unique to put in a movie. So overall, like I said, is it 1A or 2A at the end? I don't know. But Madharasi, I'm saying it wrong. I know I am. I can't, I barely know English, okay? So this movie is fun, unique, good premise, good story, good action set pieces, even though some action set pieces were very much like, yo, are you in a James Cameron Terminator sequel? Because you're taking so many hits or doing so many acrobatic moves with guns. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, is there an implant in your head? Does Elon Musk, like the neuroscience? I don't know what it is. But hey, it was fun. Good messaging. It's a good way to start the weekend for me. So Madharasi will receive a 4 out of 5 Futons, which equals at 80%. So let's see the critics and user scores gave this one. So we have critics, none of them. Audience score, none of them. There's only one down below and says success in 2 hours and 48 minutes. He's giving it a perfect 5 out of 5. Sorry for the yawn. It's pretty late right now, but I rarely give 5 out of 5s. But this is a solid movie with some weird plot holes, though, where you're like, like, why'd you take the girl? You could have just ran away. Little things like that where you're just like, okay, a little bit odd. 80%. Chase like you're the Blue Futon, like, comment, subscribe. One likes Booftopia. You Booftone, think watch a great day. I don't care watch this today, tomorrow, week from a month, a year from now. I love every single freaking one of you. Peace and love. And have you watched this yet? Which one are you gonna watch this weekend? There's a butt ton of movies.